Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Well, it's not evening. First of all, as we are preparing for our guest, Mr. Billy White Shoes Johnson, uh, Murphy's Law, and he's getting out of a coaches meeting and he's coming momentarily, but we will be talking via telephone before you get to see that lovely face of Billy's. However, allow me the opportunity to recognize that the month of October is not only recognizing Domestic Violence Month, but also it is we also recognize breast cancer survivors. My mom, of whom is a 11-year double mastectomy survivor of breast cancer. So let me say to all of you out there who have loved ones that have gone through this process or that may be going through this process, please accept our uh, condolences is not the proper word that I'm looking for, but please accept our understanding and our prayers as we pray with you. So listen, glad you're here, and we want to make sure that we gave our moms a proper to do. Okay, Mr. Billy, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be talking with Brother Billy White Shoes Johnson until we are able to get him on the screen. So we don't want you to be disappointed, but he is here, and I know that you can hear him clearly. And let me just jump right in and start introducing Brother Johnson. Now, all of us are aware of Billy White Shoes Johnson. And let me say to our young millennials, you guys get all excited about people dancing in end zone and that kind of thing. Well, today you get to talk to the originator of the end zone dance in the person of Billy White Shoes Johnson. Now, Johnson earned this famous nickname as a high schooler at Chichester High School in Boynton, Pennsylvania. Now, ever since that time, he's been referred to by his nickname, which again is appropriately Billy White Shoes Johnson. He was a very fast athlete, but guess what, guys? For all of you that doubt yourselves, he's 5'9" and at 170 pounds. Well, you know how people are; they weren't too excited about his athletic ability, so they kind of had a tendency to ignore what he was doing. Now, he accepted a scholarship to Widener College in Pennsylvania, which is a small Division III college, where he was a member of the Alpha Sigma Phi fraternity. While there, he had a highly successful career, but was barely noticed by professional scouts. He was eventually discovered by the Houston Oilers, who drafted him in the 15th round, excuse me, in the 1974 draft. Now, in 1988, former Houston Oilers Billy White Shoes Johnson ended his 14-year career. Wow, can you imagine 14 years at 5'9", 170 pounds, and people are doubting you and saying that you can't do it? So now, but despite all of the juking and jetting that earned him a spot on the league's 75th anniversary all-time team in 1995, 75th All-American. Think about that, guys, as we introduce this gentleman. How many people have that distinction or can even come close to even talk about that? Now, his truly revolutionary moves came after he scored. That's when he broke into a variation of the funky chicken, and that came to be known as the White Shoe Shuffle. Now, for better or for worse, he invented the end zone dance, and that's what we wanted to bring you guys. But guys, as we talk about this end zone on end zone dance, Billy has done many amazing things. He's coached at Morehouse College. He's coached with the Atlanta Falcons, and I work as a conditioning coach and also a mentor to the many young players who have come through the Atlanta Falcons and have been under his tutelage, college players, etc., who still keep in touch with Brother Johnson today. He still has a staple in the Duluth, Georgia community as he supports not only the youth and the town itself. He and his wife, Barbara, stay very close to their beliefs as they conduct Bible classes, etc. So this is Billy Johnson according to the resume. And what is not on the resume, guys, and that's what I call bios, resumes. What is not on the resume is the humanitarian that Billy is. I am happy to say that in excess of, I don't want to tell Billy's age, but I'll just say this: more than 25 years ago, I had the distinction of meeting Billy for the first time. Billy did not know me from Adam, but we had a crisis going on in an area called Dickinson, Texas. Billy was so kind as to come and cheer up one of our athletes who he didn't know me. Again, I was at the Oilers camp talking to some of my buddies about coming, and Billy volunteered to come to help cheer this young man up. and his name is Charles Chili Whitfield, and he's been beholding and excited about that ever since, and so have we. So we wanted to make sure that we shared that so that you can clearly understand that the gentleman that we are bringing on in the person of Mr. Billy White Shoes Johnson is far more than a football player, far more than the inventor of the end zone dance as he was doing the funky chicken, far more than being a very speedy receiver. You know, not only is he an outstanding dad, outstanding husband, just an outstanding humanitarian. So without further ado, as we continue to work on our glitches as far as our technology goes, we want to welcome Mr. Billy White Shoes Johnson. Billy, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Melvin. Thank you for that overdone introduction. Well, I'll take it any way you do it now.
Well, Bill, you know, because of the Billy Johnson that I have been blessed to come to know, I don't think I said enough, but I will receive what you're sharing. Well, listen, Bill, let's if we can, let's just kind of jump right into the whole premise of even being interested in playing football.
Well, you know, it was just one of those things. Sports was a way of life for us as young kids coming up where I grew up. We played everything from street hockey to baseball, basketball, street ball, kick the can. But it was just a natural part of us growing up to occupy our time when we weren't in school or working or, you know, doing our chores. It was just fun. It was just a neighborhood thing. So it was just second nature to us, as a matter of fact. And those who didn't, you know, you just got left out. So that's the nature of it. And plus, me being one of the younger guys at that time, hanging with the older guys, either you joined in and didn't say anything, or else you just played by yourself.
Okay. Now, you know, Bill, as I was looking at your bio, I want to ask, did you have older brothers that were athletes as well, or you were kind of like the beginner to get this process started in your family?
Oh no! I had an older brother and older cousin, a couple older cousins, and we're all like brothers. And I would have been in that chain, probably the little man on the totem pole. So I had some good role models to emulate in the process and doing that. And that's what really, you know, got me started in organized sports. Baseball, I remember I played baseball when I was 8. And when I turned 9, I was up there in the major leagues at that time to play with the older guys. So I've had some very good people. As a matter of fact, I had an uncle who played in the Negro League for 22 years.
Wow. And his name was?
I come from a family of athletes.
Okay.
Oh, okay. And then my uncle, Charlie Johnson, they called him Tubby. He was a 302 lifetime hitter, and he played like 22 years in the Negro League.
Wow. That's fantastic. Bill, allow me to say to one of my colleagues, Brother Ross Schlacks, who's the executive director of the African American Museum down in Monroe, Louisiana, has joined us. And Brother Schlacks, I just want to share with you that we are having some technical difficulties that we're working through. And hopefully Brother Johnson will be with us doing FaceTime here very shortly. So we just wanted to move on with the interview. We know that it's live, and we did not want to waste any time. So, Brother Schlacks, if you have any questions you'd like to ask Billy while we're working through this, feel free to grab one of these cameras and fire away. Now, Billy, I have always been asked, because I'm about as tall as you are, but I'm probably 4 times heavier than you are. And as we talk about being athletes, and as you share, as your bio alluded to, you know, was the fact that people kind of ignored your athletic ability and that kind of thing because you did not fit the stereotype. And that's why I wanted to share. I dealt with a similar fate because I wasn't that 6'3", 6'4" lineman, etc., that people expect to see. So with our young people who love watching what we do and who love emulating us, you know, what would you share with them as far as persevering?
Well, I think it's one of the things that sports and in general teach you is to be an overachiever or overcomer and to accept challenges. You never think of it while you're going through it. It's just all you're asking for is a chance. Mm-hmm. So in the same process, you learn how to prepare and learn how to accept those no's when they're given, or those disparaging remarks that are often made because they don't know you. They just look at the size and they just automatically assume. So you get to the point where you like proving people wrong. And after a while, you begin to relish the idea of proving people wrong. So for me, it was quite comforting to know that you got their attention, number one, and number two, that you're worthy of playing, for me, in the land of giants, and or playing with guys who are much older and well accomplished. So some people take it negatively. I don't.
Right.
Because it really gives you a good foundation outside the game itself. Because life is like that. You don't know who you are, know what you're about, and you're going to flounder through life. So for me, it's one of those early lessons that you're taught early in life.
Wow. You know what, Bill? And actually, I thank you very much for that, because that's a perfect segue. Now, you and I were involved in several athletic camps and back many years ago with the Gary Big Hands Johnson's athletic and tobacco alcohol-free camp. And you spoke with the young men about a topic called "There Are No Second Chances." If you feel comfortable, will you touch upon that a little bit as to why that you felt very strongly that was something to actually share with those young men?
Well, basically, I say that because, especially nowadays, this time of entitlement, I was saying, I believe in second chances. You can get a second chance, but don't expect a second chance and don't demand one. You've got to make sure that you're making the right decisions and hang with the people at the right time. Believe me, I'm a big proponent of giving second chances. But I think if you tell them that nobody has to give you a second chance, and you've got to be very careful that you're doing the right things, hang with the right people, like you're supposed to, it's going to be meaningful you down the road. And I don't care who you are, what you do, what field you're in. You got to expect that. And you keep that mindset, it helps you down the road. You don't have to worry about looking over your shoulders. You know when you're doing wrong. And that's what I try to get them to see. You know when wrong is wrong, you can't make it a right.
Right. Well, listen, Bill, that certainly is what we need to hear. Now, also, let me share with you, Billy, because we are live and we have guests, we also offer them the opportunity to come on and to ask questions. One brother, well, we have many, but Corinda is here on set with us via the internet, and I want to give him the opportunity. If you have a question, feel free, Corinda, you can put it in the box, or you can grab one of those spots and ask Billy personally while we're working through the logistics that we have here. So we're going to move forward. And any of our guests that are watching by other means can ask questions also. But Bill, moving along and moving forward as we encounter young people with all of the, as you've already stated many times, they feel entitled and they think that everything can be given to them, even though you didn't use those words. I just sometimes I get the feel as a person that works with the young people all the time as well, is that they feel like everything should be given. And you've already alluded to the fact about the second chance and not expecting one. So academically, though, Billy, where, in your opinion, with all the things that we see and hear, how children are affected, and specifically children of color, are affected by the reception of poor academics. Where do you feel from? Because I know you still work with young people, obviously in church and coaching and that kind of thing. Where do you feel that we are with our young people as far as providing them with their best academic opportunity? as far as educators and those of us that are past 25?
I just think not enough positive emphasis placed on academics. You got all these charter schools, you got all these schools that are for the gifted, and it makes sense. But I still think that we should have more technical schools that also encourages these young people. What happens is that the bottom line is this: everything's fast money. You put your oatmeal or your cream of wheat or your in the microwave, you get it instantly. I think that's the problem. Everybody wants everything instantly instead of having to put down some roots into learning what they're supposed to do. Let's face it, we know that they're not going to put the emphasis in certain areas because it's already underprivileged, underserved. So why waste time in essence now? I mean, it's proven itself. You go into areas that they decide to work in those areas, decide to make a difference. Those kids are just as bright as anybody else in the country. I just think it's a matter of people sitting back, doing some due diligence in these areas and making sure that we all have rights to get a good education. We all have rights to go to school, attend school, listen, and do all those good things. But is it the real deal? And I think that's where sometimes we have a lot of people talking about it, but how many people are really enabling these young men and women of people of color to do it? Certain places you can find it. To me, the thing is that athletics is a great way of changing your social economical background, believe me. But they got to be a realist in doing these things with these high school athletes. You get high school athletes now, they're automatically assuming that they're going to go, if they are pretty good athletes, they're going to the next level. And forget college. I'm not talking about college. I'm talking about pros.
Right.
They're that good that I'll play 2 years in college and I move on. And that's not so. If you look at any type of statistics, you'll see how many people do not make the NBA, the NFL, even professional baseball. I mean, a lot of guys, especially for football, you stand a better chance they're struck by lightning twice. So it's amazing that I think it's skewed a little bit. And I think those athletes who are really athletes and knowing, hey, I'm not going to play on the next level, they are the ones that the kids should emulate, not the guys who are superstars, because they have a rare gift. And see, we all have a rare gift when it comes down to academics or our cerebral cortex if we develop it. We don't develop it like we should when we're young. That's the whole thing. Mm-hmm. We give them a pass sometimes when we shouldn't.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, Bill, speaking of the next level, most individuals, whether they admit it or not, think that they're experts when, by sitting and watching an activity on television and listening to sportscasters, talk about this person, that person, and his ability to be a quarterback or to be a receiver, etc. And as we are addressing the next level, as a professional athlete for over 14 years and working with not only individuals on the field, but post being on the field and helping them with their psyche, is there one or two areas that you might suggest to our younger listening audience that they may concentrate on if they have that extra ability to move to the next level?
Well, to me, it's just like schoolwork. You have to have a foundation in math. You have to learn all the if you're in geometry, all the formulas and things like that, algebra. And once you learn it, you can figure out some of the things majority of the time. I think the foundation is so important that you don't see what you see on Sunday or the day of a baseball game or the day of a basketball game, professional. You're seeing finished products, but you don't see the years of preparation that they had to do. You don't see the years of sweat, the years of of being worried, things like that. All they do, and see, that's where the media comes in. Thank goodness for the media to help you guys make money. They just see the glorified product. Mm-hmm. They don't know what it's like to get up 5 o'clock in the morning, go for a run, then come back and eat, go to meets, come back, then go to practice. They don't see all that. And that's why a lot of people don't measure up, because they're not willing to put in that effort, that time. Mm-hmm. To me, and I tell them all, in school or in business, it's those things that get you to where you are, the foundation. And if you don't have a good foundation, you're going to crumble. Mm-hmm. You're going to crumble. Too many guys that have been in this league, in the NFL or basketball, they crumble because they try to just get by on their talents, on their natural abilities. If you have natural abilities and you've got that it factor and you don't work at it, you're just another run-of-the-mill guy. Mm. Or young lady.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, I shudder to think that our young people fail miserably at understanding that. But in conjunction, I shudder to think and also realize that those of us that are mature and older and have been through that situation, academically, athletically, etc., you know, I shudder to think what poor job the majority of us do sharing this information that you're sharing now with our young people and getting them prepared for those challenges that they're going to be faced with. And as we, you know, talk about the challenges, Bill, you know, even politics. I'm not a politician. I don't necessarily care to discuss politics specifically. However, what or do you feel that it's important? Maybe that's what I want to ask, because I have it written down here and I was debating whether to ask it or not. Do you feel that it's important that our total generation, not just the younger ones, understand what's really happening when they are being indulged or engaged in the political arena to decide about how they are going to cast a vote? You know, not voting expertise, but just the thought in general. Do you have any feelings about that?
Oh, I think so. I think, you know, everybody thinks, oh, my one vote won't care, or I'm just one of 5 million people. But you do care. How you vote, what you hear, it does matter. Because if you get some imbecile leading you astray, then that's your fault, because you haven't taken time out to listen or to pay attention. I mean, a lot of young people, they think it doesn't matter. Oh, I'll get it next time, go around. But I think it is. And that's what you're taught. You know, first thing in history, I know a lot of people don't like history, but you want to be represented. You want to be counted. You're not just an everyday person. Your voice counts. And until we as a nation really begin to see that, and yeah, I know politics is a terrible thing sometimes. It can be. It can be a wonderful thing too. But it's almost like Malcolm said, you know, democracy is hypocrisy sometimes. So unless we do what we're supposed to do, he's right. He's right. Just don't go out here proclaiming, well, I live in a democracy, but are you willing to sacrifice your time? It's a little bit of time that sometimes it requires. Are you willing to sacrifice and do that? That's what bothers me. I mean, coming up in a small town, you see politics at its finest, so you begin to understand, you know, you ain't got to be for one party or another. You can be independent and still right is right, wrong is wrong. And you can make a difference in keeping things the right way if you pay attention to the details, what's being said. Don't be bamboozled or hoodwinked.
Right. Right. Now, Bill, speaking of being bamboozled and hoodwinked, now a lot of entities, a lot of private and professional entities are celebrating the fact that in our America, that August 20th, 2019, to the very day from the history that we have marked, the 400th year of Africans being in America, now known as African Americans or Black or colored, etc. Now, I know that the New York Times, as a matter of fact, her name is Hannah, what is Hannah's last name? Hannah Jones. but Nicole Hannah Jones, I'm sorry, and she has a major project going with the New York Times called the 1619 Project. And I am happy to say that I'm also involved with a group called Shackles 400, with some prominent gentlemen that are most definitely smarter than me, and they follow historically. So, but what I'm finding, not only with Nicole Hannah Jones's project, the 1619 through New York Times, and with our project, Shackles 400, America's Ambassadors, excuse me, America's Unintended Ambassadors, I'm finding that a lot of the, and I say so-called, a lot of the so-called millennials could care less about actually knowing about the process of a history of people that look like them. Uh, do you encounter when you're working with young people that they have any consciousness at all about the process and the things that we deal with as a people?
Well, I think some of them do. I think some of their parents and their uncles and aunts, or some of the groups they hang around with, they do. But I just think they're enlightened because they're surprised that, oh, we've had people to go before us to be involved in chemistry and biology, to be involved with NASA. And I think it's interesting when you can get them somewhat quadrant off and talk to them. Say, hey, look. And as a matter of fact, it's just because a lot of stuff isn't presented to them anymore. They with this new age of all this new technologies out there and Google and stuff, the people sometimes say, well, Google it instead of people. I know some schools now don't have Black History Month. They may do one or two things, but yeah, it's the preponderance is on us to make sure that they are learning some things about their history, about their culture. There's so many things that they're beginning to see now that it's never too late, but they've just their goals are different. Life is as hard as it used to be, even in that era. For some of these kids, parents are doing much more for their kids because they don't want them to have to suffer like they did. So consequently, I think sometimes we forego that instead of always making that to remember, so that they can say, okay, I see now. But I will say this for those these young kids who do know, who do take a stance, and they do their homework, they're pretty sharp. I mean, you're not going to just tell them something and think they're going to accept it. They're going to challenge you. And I think when that happens, some people get scared because they're scared of a movement. So it's cyclical, I think, to the point where they know that when they stand up to be counted, they're put into a category. Then you go around again chasing that and doing this. But I still think, I know millennials are out there. There are some good young ones coming up who are sincere about what they're doing and passing the information along about the history and finding new evidence of how important the people of color were in informing this country.
Yeah, Bill, I wonder, and I'm happy that you're sharing what you're sharing because it saddens me, and I can only speak for myself. It saddens me when I hear and encounter young individuals, actually, regardless of quote race, unquote, that they have no clue, they don't want to know, they simply accept things that they see at face value, no matter how disruptive it may be, no matter how unfair it may be, no matter how the disenfranchisement may come about. So, and that's why I'm saying that it saddens me when I encounter individuals like that. But anyway, as we move forward, and I know you have to get ready for a flight and that kind of thing, but I would like to ask, as you move around the country and when you are making presentations and sharing speeches or maybe doing autograph sessions, that kind of thing, do you often find that younger people actually know who Billy White Shoes Johnson is and what he actually did? Or do you feel that because the parents are Billy White Shoes Johnson fans, then the children pretend to be excited. I know that may be a crazy question, but I wonder about that sometimes, about athletes in general.
I mean, that's a good question. It doesn't bother me because one thing before I even started playing football, I think I was well grounded with my parents and with my brothers and sisters and cousins, and we talk about the family structure. It grounded me because my parents always said, "Hey, you got to be the same person going up the ladder because you're definitely going to come down. So there should be any difference."
Yeah.
But for me, I just think that if they don't know, that's fine. Because I am more than just an athlete.
Right.
I am more than just an athlete. I'm more than just a person who wants to be known for my talents on the football field. For me, it's just I like to treat people the way they should be treated, fair, honestly, and with respect.
Right.
If they do that for me, I'm cool with it. I mean, it doesn't bother me. I guess it's because I'm used to having been challenged throughout, my career. Sometimes it might have been color. Sometimes it might have been because of my physical stature. Sometimes it's just because I was in the right place at the wrong time.
Okay.
But it doesn't bother me. You learn how to adjust and don't lose perspective of who you are. When you do that, I think you can. I'm not going to say it's always going to be fair, but at least you feel good about yourself.
Yes, and Bill, I asked that question because I often encounter young people that's this guy he's the greatest athlete, and when we mention those of us that are mature, when we mention athletes such as a Billy White Shoes Johnson, well, I think my daddy, but he ain't good as that kind of thing, and I always laugh to myself. I'll be very honest with you, Bill. They say, well, he ain't good as, and they have no clue, and they don't realize how to respect the fact that not only he's better than, and he laid the foundation, and he played at a time, and dare I say, when we played real football, when people could really smack you and nothing happened, when people could really commit all kind of atrocities out there on the field, and for someone to last 14 years playing wide receiver, running kickoffs back, and that kind of thing, I just don't think our young people really grasp the essence of the athlete that you were, along with many others, when they don't have the knowledge to understand that the game has been so watered down, and you can't really be that brutal person that you once were. So.
Well, I mean, that's a good point. But here's the thing: is that these guys are coming out now. I'm not saying I was a student of the game, but I knew guys who went before me, or guys who I tried. And like I can go back to remember Travis Williams.
Yes.
Go back when they had the old commissioner, Buddy, and going back and looking at people like I say, hey man, that's me. I want to be an athlete like him. I want to be different, but yet, I want to get a chance to play.
Yes.
It's all in it for what they see for themselves, and that makes a difference. I think it hurts, but that's why I like some of these young guys who knew the game can go back and say, "Well, I'm playing cornerback, so I'll remember Len Barney, or
yes.
I'll remember Night Train Lane, or I'll remember Mel Blunt." When you get guys who are playing a position, and 10 or 15 years prior to you coming into the league, then people can respect you for that and say, okay, this guy has a good IQ for what he's doing, playing his position. And I think that's what happens. It's glorified so much that everybody wants to be glorified.
Yes.
Even your backup who comes on there and makes a tackle, he gets paid for making tackles. He gets paid for deflecting the ball, or he gets paid to catch the ball. So why stand up, beat your chest, and try to bring recognition to yourself? That's what you get paid to do. That's to look at. And they may say, well, you did the dance. Yeah, but my dance had nothing to do, because I danced off the field, number one. But I never tried to belittle anybody, and it was for the entertainment of the crowd. It wasn't to bring myself glory, because I sure didn't receive it if that were the case. But but it's funny. I mean, it's an ever-changing world, and I'm sure people look at me when I did my dance. They told me he ain't going to dance on, and I understand that. I wasn't trying to change the game. I was enjoying myself, but yet I never disrespected anybody in doing so.
Yeah.
Or trying to excite a crowd to I guess hate you or to root against you. I just did it for fun. I mean, for me, that's what it was. I enjoyed the game like that. And I think when guys are making money like that, if it's fun for them, boy, I know they're enjoying it. But if it's not, if it's just a paycheck, it's drudgery. So I still don't think you win when you're making all that money and you hate doing it. You got to enjoy and love what you do. So the guys who are making the game fun today, and they're excited about doing that, having fun, man, they're ahead of the game.
I concur. I could not concur more. And it gets me to no end when I hear people constantly trying to criticize. And I'll be honest with you, Bill. I say to myself all the time, yeah, you're criticizing because you can't do it. I mean, that's the real crux. That's the real crux of the matter. Yeah, you criticizing because you can't, and so then there's a jealousy element there. But listen, allow me to be selfish right now and ask you about playing with Earl Campbell. Earl is a cousin. We don't connect. We haven't talked since 1995. He doesn't even remember the conversation. So seriously, he doesn't. What was it like playing with Earl, man?
Well, I mean, it's good knowing that you can ride that guy's shoulders and take it into the playoffs, into the championship game. Now Earl was one of those guys that he worked at his craft.
Yeah.
People think, well, he was naturally and this and that, and he might have been, but Earl wasn't a 240 pound runner. People think that Earl. I think that the heaviest Earl ever weighed and played at was like 227, if I'm not mistaken. But yet he was a guy who was serious. When it came to be about playing football, he had his fun when he supposed to have his fun, but he worked extremely hard. I remember we would be out there sometimes, season would be over in January. Earl would start probably the second or third week in February, trying to get a head start before we all came out there. He and Charlie Joyner were good about that. Well, I learned it from Charlie. And then when Earl heard Charlie was doing it, he started doing it. Then next thing you know, we all got out there early, started doing it. I mean, but he was really focused on what he had to do. Like you said, he came from humble beginnings. He enjoyed it, but he didn't take anything for granted.
Yeah, that's cool. Listen, may I ask you one last thing before I let you finish getting ready for your flight? You did something that have always been indelibly etched in my head. Everybody knew who Billy Johnson was. Billy Johnson cared enough to go and bring some joy to a young man by the name of Charles Chili Whitfield in a place named Dickinson, Texas, without being coerced, without anyone saying, Bill, you really should do this, etc. The world needs to know that Billy White Shoes Johnson volunteered his time, didn't know Melvin Lars from Adam. He heard a conversation that was being held with one of my former players, Ted Washington. He and I played together at Mississippi Valley State. And Billy Johnson requested the opportunity to go with us to visit this kid. Will you share with our audience, Billy, what is it about Billy Johnson's character and his love for people that prompted him to request to go and raise this kid's spirit?
In the area that I grew up in, that was typical of always trying to reach out and help others. I know for me in my community, and all of our guys who we hung out with together, we knew them old heads would come over and talk to us about doing the right thing, making the right, going in the right direction, and always been able to if you can enable somebody to do something for themselves, or if you're in a position to help, why not help? Mm-hmm. People help me, and that's why I give, because a lot of people who go out their way to help me, make sure I'm doing the right things, make sure I'm in the right place, the right time. and it's only natural, you know. And basically, I guess I'm a servant, you know. That's
Yes.
one of the things you learn as you get older. Why people do the things they do. Some people are servants. Blessed to be a servant. So I feel fortunate that I was able to be at the right place at the right time to bring some sunshine in that young man's career at that time.
Wow.
Just like when I went to college, had somebody step up for me, to vouch for me.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so I just want to pass it along.
For sure. But wow, Bill, listen, I want to be a man of my word. I told you we try to stay within 30, 45 minutes because I know you're busy. I just want to thank you so very much for coming on and allow me to say to our audience that whenever Mr. White Shoes get the time, he will return so that you guys can actually get to see him and ask what I say. There are a lot of thumbs going up, Bill, and a lot of hearts going up, and people have a lot of questions, but I promised you that we wouldn't take up all of your time. So I just want them to know they can send those questions in to me and we can forward them on to Mr. Johnson. And when he gets time, he'll respond, etc. Billy, if you can, sir, if you can tell our audience quickly, now I know you have paraphernalia out there that's being sold, etc. If you can tell them where they might can contact, what contacts they might can make to maybe get some Billy White Shoes Johnson paraphernalia, or if they have a question, etc. What would be the best place to contact you if they wanted to do that?
Oh, wow. Your guess is as good as mine.
Okay.
Your guess is as good as mine. You know, I do some autograph signings and stuff like that, but I can't offhand. I couldn't give you the name or number.
Okay.
I'll have to look it up. To be honest with you.
Hey, well, listen. Audience guys, I see some thumbs going up again, and I want our audience to know that I didn't ask Billy this prior to us coming on, so he wasn't prepared for that question. But I will share with them, Bill, that if they go on the internet, and you mentioned Google already, if you go on the internet and you type in Billy White Shoes Johnson, then you will see that balls are there to be autographed online. You'll see Billy White Shoes Johnson paraphernalia, etc. So guys, do yourself a favor, do you some research. If you want to encounter one of the best athletes to ever touch a football field, coupled with, or I should say, beginning with, first of all, being one of the greatest humanitarians on God's earth. And let me say this to Billy, as I say to the audience, when I make those statements, Bill, I make them from a humanistic point of view. And a lot of times people like say, well, ain't nobody perfect. I never make statements thinking that people are perfect, because I am well versed that as far as all of us know, that the only perfect person that ever walked this earth came in the spirit, and that person has long transitioned. So I just want to reiterate for our audience, as I speak with a gentleman that I love and admire, is that the fact that when we share accolades and when we heap praise on individuals, my audience needs to know that we understand that we all have flaws or whatever. So don't even waste your time going there. Don't waste your time hating. Just appreciate one of God's gift to this earth. So, Mr. Johnson, we do appreciate you coming on so very much, and we would like to have you back again to possibly share some other things that you'd like to share. Please allow me to say on air that you say hello to your family for us and give them our best, because we are certainly grateful to you and to your family and to Miss Barbara. So, guys, listen.
Definitely will.
Well, thank you. Listen, guys, thank you for joining the Nobody Asked Me Guys show. Thank you for indulging us and engaging our guests. Next week on our show, we will be talking about being a humanitarian with Miss Deidre Tahara. So she's going to be coming on for the first time, talking with us, and we're moving forward. You can contact me at www.dyingonmyfeet.com, www.dyingonmyfeet.com. And as always, we encourage you to purchase our latest book, the latest book being Mothers and Their Men, an introspective look at mothers rearing their sons. There's no other book on the market like it. We are blessed to be getting a lot of rave reviews about the book because it addresses mothers and their sons. And it also addresses a lot of other things that we talk about. So guys, listen, we thank you so very much for being here on the Nobody Asked Me Guy show. And again, we thank our guest, Billy White Shoes Johnson, who is just a phenomenal person. check out, Google him at Billy White Shoes Johnson. Have a great and blessed day.